workshop series where we would hope you would be involved in both coming to our workshops, but also offering workshops from your group. So that's the way it's going today. So I'm going to go into the land acknowledgement. We gather here today. As we gather here today, we would like to acknowledge that we are meeting tonight, today, on land that is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, the Ojibwe and Anishinaabe people, as well as the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples who named this land Etobicoke. This land is covered by Treaty 13, the Toronto Purchase, to what is now known as the Etobicoke Creek in the west, to Ashridge's Bay in the east. To learn more, go to native-lands.ca or Whose Land. What we want to do in the introductions is to get to know who's here quite clearly. So I'm actually going to start this. I'm going to say, my name is Kate O'Neill. I live in South Etobicoke. I have worked within the affordable housing world for about 20 years. And I'm joining this meeting today because I want all of us to put forward strong ideas towards to the candidates for the upcoming provincial election, but also to discuss within ourselves what we have found, learned, what's worked, and things like that. So to go through the introduction, I'm going to have Carly call out your name and just a quick name, connection to South Etobicoke, reason for joining, and anything else you'd like to add. Carly? Perfect.
Thanks, Kate. So I guess I'll also introduce myself for those of you who don't know me. So my name is Carly. I live and work in South Etobicoke. I was raised here and I'm raising my children here as well. I'm a social worker who's been working with LAHEG for about 3 years now. I'm trying to build the affordable housing movement locally. I'm really happy to be here today with all of you and hear some of your insights and perspectives into the affordable housing issues that we're experiencing in South Etobicoke, and then how we can collectively work on that, whether it be during election time or just in general, and holding our decision makers accountable. So I'll just start from who I see on my list. So I do see Daniel first.
Hi, I'm Daniel. I was born and raised in South Etobicoke. I work in South Etobicoke. I work at Land Community Health Center in the health promotion sector. I'm trying to be a housing worker eventually. Yeah, it's great to be here today. Looking forward to getting to the bottom of some of these issues. I'm currently doing some grad work. And you know what? Actually, that's about all there is to me. So Carly, back to you. Who's ever next on the list there?
Perfect. Laura, I think you're the next person I see.
Hi, my name is Laura Bachman, and I live in South Etobicoke. I work in South Etobicoke for Alterna Savings, which is a credit union, a cooperative, so very involved in cooperative housing. I'm also on the board of directors for the Lakeshore Village BIA, and I grew up in social housing, and I know firsthand. I'm hearing a lot of residents telling me how they have to take out a loan for their month's rent, like to get a rental, because it's no longer first and last month's rent, or they're taking money out of their savings because they need to give their grandkids enough money for 5 months rent in advance to secure a rental. So I know there's definitely some serious housing issues.
Awesome. Absolutely. Thank you, Laura. Keegan.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kagan Harris. I'm the Director of Housing Development with the Neighborhood Group. So my role with this organization is to design, develop, and then help operate new affordable housing buildings as well as supportive housing buildings. I used to work in South Etobicoke as part of Alberta Neighborhood Services, but about 2.5 years ago, I moved into this position with the Neighborhood Group, and it's a citywide position. So just based on my work in South Etobicoke, I've always been interested in keeping tabs and seeing what opportunities there are to develop new units of affordable housing, because I think there really is some underutilized areas that the municipal and the federal governments haven't really tapped into yet. And I'm excited to see this group move forward with that.
Awesome. Thanks for being here with us. And you're definitely a founding member of LAHEG. So we thank you for continuing to support the work. Jasmine?
Hi, everyone. It's great to see everybody. We have 2 roundtables today, so this is really, really exciting. So thanks so much for coming. I work at LAMP, and I've been involved in our LAHEG's work. I guess kind of a founding member like Keegan and Debbie and a few others that are going to be here today. So really pleased to have you here. I'm really excited and hoping that we can work together more collaboratively in the near future, and very excited about today's presentation and the next steps. So thank you for coming.
Awesome. Thank you, Jasmine. Vanessa?
Hi, everyone. My name is Vanessa. I'm actually here at Humber now, so pardon the face mask and everything. I work with Humber and LAMP on the Affordable Research Study as an outreach worker. I'm also the co-lead for the CBA for South Etobicoke, and I'm happy to see everyone here so we can collectively come together and help this community keep being as amazing as it is. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Vanessa. Stephen?
Hi, how are you? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. My name is Steve Bella. I've been in Long Branch for about 25 years. I'm the chair of the Good Growth on Lakeshore Advisory Committee as part of the Long Branch Neighborhood Association. And that committee works with the city and the developers on developments on Lakeshore West. And we let the city and developers know what the neighborhood's concerns are and the neighbors, what is being planned. And we encourage and support development along Lakeshore. There is, I don't know about quite a lot, but there is affordable housing in Long Branch. But as far as I know, there is no affordable housing being built. The only thing that's being built today is large single family houses for millionaires.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Thank you. Next person I see is Bill.
Hi, I'm Bill King. I'm the pastor of the Salvation Army here, and I'm kind of stepping in for Jennifer Ames, who's going to be running our family services in the next few weeks. She's been doing it lately, but we're very interested in connecting with the community and seeing how we can become involved, because again, we want to start looking at our church and looking at the community, and just to see how can we become a part of it and how can we support other organizations within it. So,
Absolutely. Thank you, Bill.
Ani came in September, and I think they're keeping me on for another year because I'm at a retirement. So, and I live in Scarborough right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, quite the commute.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us today and stepping in. We really appreciate that and having your perspective here. Alan?
Okay, I think I'm unmuted. My name is Helen. I live in Parkdale, and I'm here representing Christchurch St. James, which is at 194 Park Lawn Road. So you may be familiar with this little church because it's beside the Humber Bay Library, and the Humber Bay Pantry Food Bank runs out of our church. We also provide services to the men and women of the Dale here in Parkdale, to the men at the Keele Correctional Center, and to the men who are currently living in the restorative justice homes in Etobicoke. And because of our connections to all of these folk, we have become increasingly aware of the barriers to housing. And so this year we've formed a small housing committee, and our goals, like what Bill said, is to connect with others in the community and find out what resources and what actions we can bring to bear on this issue. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Thank you, Helen. And thanks for being here. Alan, did you want to go? Sorry about that.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you now.
Oh, good. Okay. Yeah, I'm Alan Dutton. I've been born and raised in the South Etobicoke area. Lived here most of my life, and I'm interested in affordable housing. I'm also a member of the Toronto Seniors Forum and also a member of STAC, the Senior Tenant Advisory Committee for Toronto Senior Housing Corporation.
Awesome. Thank you, Alan. Alex is the next person I see.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me on the call. As Carly alluded to, my name is Alex McKenzie. I currently reside as well as work in the South Etobicoke neighborhood, specifically at St. Margaret's, newly minted administrator there. Reason for joining today. This conversation is both personally as well as professionally important, and just very much looking forward to being engaged and learning as much as I possibly can, because this is an extremely important conversation, and yeah, just grateful to be here. So thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alex, for joining us. Irene, did you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Irene. I've been living in the South Etobicoke area now for about 10 years, both in Mimico and presently I'm in the Long Branch area. I am retired, and I'm really concerned about the housing situation in the area, and I want to see what I can do along with others to try and improve the situation, not just for myself, but for those that are to follow.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining today.
Thank
Graham
you.
is the next person I see.
Hi, my name is Graham Rollins. I'm a Mimico resident. Also run a community group on Facebook, the South Etobicoke Community Group for the area. And I'm also a local realtor in the area as well. Main reason I joined is to learn about the issues. I was asked to join, see if there's anything that I could contribute. I do quite a lot of stuff in the community, so just trying to see what the needs are and if there's anything that I can provide to help.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here today. Sandra, did you want to introduce yourself?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sandra Fawcett. I've lived in South Etobicoke for more than 30 years, just on the border at Queensway. I am a member of the Housing Committee at Christchurch St. James with Helen. And I'm also here today as a representative of Eculinks, an ecumenical group within Etobicoke that is planning a all candidates meeting. And I've been empowered as a result of a meeting yesterday to reach out to this group to see if you wish to join with us to help bring some of these housing issues forward. I am extremely concerned about the lack of affordable housing, and in particular, appropriate housing for people who are currently homeless. And I think that there's a great deal more that can be done if the communities rise up and speak together.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Sandra. Bruce, did you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Bruce Buchanan. I work at Storefront Humber in community support. I live at Palace Pier, where I rent a condo, share a space with someone. And I've been in this area for 14 years. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Bruce. Thanks for joining us. Salome, did you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody. My name is Salome Amadi. I used to live in Mimico for most of my life. Now I'm in Central Etobicoke. And I'm leading the partnered research project at Humber with LAMP. So I'll be chatting about that a little later. So really passionate. I was part of LAHAG when we used to meet in person. So excited to be here. Thank you, Carly.
Awesome. Thank you, Salome. Thanks for joining. Carol, you're the next person.
Hi there, my name's Carol. I've lived in Long Branch area for about 16 years, and I've seen where just the rental situation has just skyrocketed and made it next to impossible for just regular everyday folks, even folks who are working at decent jobs and salaries. So it is of concern to myself. And I've been sort of, I guess, involved with LAHAG for a couple of years, and I'm looking at how around the world, other countries are solving their housing problems. So I do a lot of research and I try and forward it on. I think that's sort of my strong suit. And anyway, that's it.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us. And then Carol from Stonegate.
Hi, I'm Carol and I work at Stonegate Community Health Center. So I'm joining because I want to explore ways that we could support the community with housing, because there are a lot of housing issues when it comes to rent, affordability. So I just want to know how we can work together to support our community.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here today. John, did you want to introduce yourself?
My name's John Andrews. I lived in Lakeshore community for all my life, except for a brief stint when we moved to Brampton when we first got married. But you know, this is really home. I lived on 7th Street all my life, and you know, been in the area, seen the ups and downs, and it, and you know, just since work closed, you know, I had to take a early retirement with no pension, no way to support myself, and now I can't even. I got some health problems with walking, so I can't even get employment, and it's just you know, housing is precarious. You know, I have a place to live, which I'm very grateful for, but there's no telling how long it's going to last or exist. You know, so you know, what do I do? You know, because you could be without housing, you know, at a drop of a hat when somebody wants to, if they won't, landlord doesn't wants to so-called renovate, you know, so it's and that's why I joined LAHAG, and I've been attending as a regular person with no expertise except for life expertise. You know, I've seen how people in the neighborhood have been walking around with, you know, nowhere to even go to the washroom or wash their hands or go to the washroom or have a shower. Since COVID, you know, everything closed down. At least before St. Margaret's was open, they could have a shower, they could have out of the cold dinners, and now that doesn't even exist. For the, you know, so it's a, you know, I feel for everyone, you know, and that somehow we have to work together to support the lower income people, you know, and it's not just about, you know, affluent developers and you know, making money. All businesses have to make money, so you know, we know that, you know, but we just want to take care of the poorer people or less well off, you know, because anybody could lose their housing these days, you know, with the prices. It's you know, it's a shame to see what it happening, you know, and it's not, you know, it can be catastrophic, you know, especially if it happens to you. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that perspective, and definitely life experience is the biggest teacher. So thank you for being here. Just moving down the list. Flora, did you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Flora. I'm a student at U of T, so we just came to support our fellow student who is presenting today. Thank you.
Thanks, Flora, for being here. I appreciate it. Epi?
Yes, my name is Apiliba Chopar, and I'm a lawyer at South Etobicoke Community Legal Services. And amongst other things, I practice housing law. So that's why I'm here.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Amy, did you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Amy. I'm also a student of the UFT. I'm graduating from an MSW, and the housing issue is since I immigrated here since 2013. It's crazy. It's impossible to stay alive. You know, all the salary that you work is go to landlord. So that's why I join in, and also to support my peers, Carly.
Thank you so much for being here, Amy. I appreciate it. Debbie, did you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Debbie. I work at LAMP. I work with high-risk families, and the majority of my clients are all full of anxiety due to they all feel that they're living in precarious housing. They're just one developer away from being evicted for rent evictions. The majority of their income goes for rent, and there's very little left for food. So it has an impact on them emotionally and physically. Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you, Debbie, for being here. Betty, did you want to introduce yourself? No? Okay, we can always come back. Olga?
Hi everyone. I'm actually a Humber student as well, and I'm so I used to live in South Etobicoke. Now I moved to Central Etobicoke, and the reason of joining is because we're working with LAMP on our physics project, and it's very interesting for us, the subject of affordable housing and what is going on right now. And even though we're pretty much aware that it's shifting a lot, because like I said, I was a resident, and I know like there is so many high-rise buildings which are like unaffordable to people of low income, or like even becoming unaffordable for those who are mid-income. So yeah, would be interesting to hear. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. Kelsey, did you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks for having me. My name is Kelsey. I'm a social worker. I just graduated from my master's. And yeah, just very interested in kind of housing. I worked in South Etobicoke for a few months in my placement. Yeah, very drawn to this community, and I think there's a really interesting landscape. And I think in this time period we're in, with an election coming at the municipal and provincial level, I think there's a real possibility for great campaigning and changes to happen. So hoping to educate myself and others, and hopefully we can make some real changes with this next time. So very excited to be here.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, Kelsey. Maboba?
Hi everyone, my name is Mahbouba Hashimi. I am working at Women's Habitat located in South Etobicoke. So I'm quite concerned about lack of affordable housing because it directly impacts our clients' life. And I'm very excited to join today's meeting and listen to the presentation. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. Jennifer?
Hi, everyone. My name is Jennifer. I work and live in the Mimico area. I've lived in Mimico for many, many years, 40+ years, and I also work at Women's Habitat in the role as the transitional housing support worker. And just as my colleague just said, you know, the lack of affordable housing in the Etobicoke Lakeshore, South Etobicoke area has a great impact on the clients that we serve. And I'm looking forward to, you know, ongoing engagement and to support the community in every which way that myself and Women's Habitat can.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here today. Lucy?
Yeah, hi. My name is Lucy Drummond. I
I live in Etobicoke. I've been in Etobicoke for 20 years, and I'm here, someone with lived experience. I'm also here because I also speak to the disability community about accessibility issues in housing. There seems to be more growing issues around what is accessible, trying to find housing, how to maintain housing. That's it. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here today. Kumsa?
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Kumsa. I'm the campaigns director at the Toronto Community Benefits Network, which is a citywide network of community groups, community organizations, unions, and social enterprises. And I also support the work in South Etobicoke through the CBA for South Etobicoke group that Vanessa is leading. And yeah, through that work, I know affordable housing has been identified as one of the key priorities that we're looking to sort of include as part of our advocacy. And so, yeah, great to be part of this conversation today. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here today. Tracy?
Hey there, Tracy Houston. Worked in South Etobicoke for over 25 years with Job Start and now Wood Green, so at the corner of Lakeshore and Islington. So we have employment and settlement type programs, which always intersect and overlap with housing needs in the area. So just happy to participate in that aspect. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you for being here. Amber?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. Hopefully you can hear me okay.
Yeah, there's just a bit of background, but we can hear you.
Great, thank you. My name's Amber Morley. I am a health promoter at Lamp Community Health Center, and I actually am born and raised in a local cooperative in South Etobicoke. So I'm a big fan of and advocate for the co-op model of housing. I've been involved with LaHague at the beginning. It's been a little while since I've re-engaged, but I actually ran for office in 2018 to represent our community at City Hall and try to make progress on some of these issues. And I'm looking forward to getting ready to run again in 2022. So I'm excited to listen and learn from folks about this issue and some of the pain points, but also some of the ideas for resolution. So thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thanks for being here. Linda?
Hi, yes, I apologize, I can't be on camera. Everyone can hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, yes, I'm in a hospital setting right now, so there's comings and goings, so it would be distracting. But I've lived in South Etobicoke for 30 years. I moved here as a single mother, and I have used the facilities at LAMP for that period of time when I've throughout those that 30-year period, and so I'm very familiar with LAMP. My daughter actually used the toy library there, and so now I'm semi-retired. I'm a catering chef, and I've had worn various hats over the years. So I am happy to give back and be associated with LAMP and LaHague, and I'm hoping that my experience and my desire to keep South Etobicoke, Lakeshore area, the wonderful multicultural, different incomes and different kinds of families, and keeping I'm hoping that we can keep with the work that we do, keep it as vibrant as I've always known and loved it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Nikki, did you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Nikki McAllister, and I'm with Daily Bread Food Bank. Sorry, I think my video should be working, but I can't really see myself. I've been with Daily Bread for about 11 years and working in the Etobicoke area for that long. I'm currently managing the New Toronto Street Food Bank, And we are seeing, of course, a lot of folks who are accessing our food banks who are working and just unable to make ends meet because of high rent. And we're also seeing a lot more folks who have been evicted from their homes because of landlords wanting to renovate their spaces. So really hoping that we can figure something out together and continue to do so alongside La Hague and alongside all of the communities who are fighting this, I would call it another epidemic in our city, is this horrendous lack of control over rental situations that are pushing locals out of this housing market. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here, and as an honorary founding member of La Hague as well. So thank you. Christine?
So my name is Christine Mercado, and I'm the chair of the Long Branch Neighborhood Association. So I actually came in today, and this is the first time I've attended one of these roundtables. I guess some of you may know about all the policy changes that are happening throughout the city with regards to specifically housing. So I'm here to learn about how it's affecting people that don't necessarily own but have unstable housing, because from what I can see, the policies aren't making the housing situation any better for people that may have unstable housing. And so I want to learn from groups like yourselves on what we can do to curb it so there's more equity for all of us.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining the conversation today. Bree, did you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. I hope you can hear me okay. My name's Bree. I am a student, and I was involved with La Hague from almost its start. I'm super excited to hear the conversation that we're going to have today. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. And yeah, definitely a founding member as well. Katra?
Hi, everyone. My name is Katra, and I'm joining today as a local resident of the South Etobicoke community, and also as a Humber student, as part of a Humber team that's working on affordable housing issues and outreach techniques with LAMP Community Health Center. The reason I'm interested in this issue, one is I live in the community, and therefore I feel the impact of rent increases. Every year, once or twice, we get that letter that tells us like our rent is going to go up. And I just want to learn about what can we do to, either stop those rent increases or just solve the whole issue with affordable housing. And then hopefully by learning something from the roundtable and getting involved with the project, I can help my neighbors when they have questions about who to go to find solutions for rent increases.
Absolutely, thank you. Kohenet? So I see that you're unmuted, but I don't hear any audio.
Oh, sorry about that. Physical button on my microphone was on. My name is Kohenet Talia Johnson. Talia would be my first name, and it's fine to use that. I live in South Etobicoke. I had lived for a while. I left but moved back mostly for accessible housing around disability. I encompass multiple areas. I'm part of Autistics for Autistics Ontario, part of the executive, and housing is a big issue for people in our group and autistics generally. Reminder, our mayor didn't want us living in his neighborhood. Trans people face disproportionate housing issues, especially with the requirement for shared accommodations. As soon as people find out you're trans, you don't get a shared place. You don't even get calls back. And then around disability, and as part of A4A, I've been attending Ontario Long-Term Care Disability Coalition meetings, which is talking about younger people and disabled people being in long-term care, but really ought to be living in community with supports. So all kinds of factors. I've been following politics since I was a teen. You know, well over 35 years ago, I've been following politics. So I witnessed all of this starting under Mike Harris in the mid-1990s. And I think that it's important generally to remember that that's where a lot of our housing problems got exacerbated initially. And so many of his policies were never revoked. So those are the multiple areas I come from. Also being Jewish clergy, I work with marginalized people there in that context, and the issues are similar.
Well, thank you for joining the conversation today and adding the many perspectives that you bring to the conversation. Karen, did you want to introduce yourself?
Everyone, I'm Karen. I am a member of LAHAG, and I live in the Lakeshore community. And so that's my connection to South Etobicoke. I am also a volunteer at LAMP and at St. Margaret's Anglican, New Toronto. And so I work and serve in the community in different capacities. And my reason for joining the meeting today is to learn and share, and to get, as a member of LAHAG, to get a feel of what the community is saying and what the community needs are. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Karen, for being here today. Norki, did you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Norki. I live in Parkdale area and work in at LAMP. So the first time I got to know more about the affordable housing is when the rent strike happened, the COVID happened, and the rent hike and everything. And then after I started working with LAMP with Jasmine, I was like, yeah, we really need to work hard towards an affordable housing and gather together and bring a stronger coalition to work towards everyone's need. And that's it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Norki. I'm not sure if I missed anyone. I think it's everyone, but I'm not sure. So if you haven't had a chance to introduce yourself, please feel free to unmute and go ahead. Okay, sounds good. And then if anything, you can always introduce yourself in the chat as well. So that's always an option. But thank you so much. It was great hearing who's in the room today and just understanding our shared connection and passion towards building the affordable housing movement locally. So I'm going to turn it over to Linda.
Okay, LAHAG's involvement in the community. The Lakeshore Affordable Housing Advocacy and Action Group is a grassroots resident-led coalition and includes service providers, community organizations, and community leaders working towards housing justice and housing equity in South Etobicoke. We have been engaged in community development work around housing issues for over 3 years. We meet every first Tuesday of the month to discuss the issues of affordable housing in our communities and respond through advocacy and action. Our mission statement. LAHAG's mission is to support our neighborhoods to locate, protect, and develop safe, secure, affordable housing.
Great. So we've been very, very busy over the pandemic, adding to our advocacy, outreach, and so forth. Some of the things that we've been involved with is hosting a community roundtable on affordable housing. We've advocated for affordable housing, such as rent guarantee income and supportive housing, during community consultations on new housing development applications and city-led consultations. We've had 3 affordable housing meetings with MP James Maloney to advocate for affordable housing projects in this ward. And we've had affordable housing discussions with Councillor Grimes's office, including a roundtable discussion with Housing Secretariat, Abby Bond, Creatio, and others. We've advocated for portable housing subsidies in the Ontario pre-budget consultations with Etobicoke Lakeshore, MPP Christine Hogarth and Michael Parza, PA to the Ministry of Finance. We've participated and helped to organize 3 federal Etobicoke Lakeshore All Candidates debates. And we've built relationships and collaborations with Humber College, Toronto Neighborhood Group, House Lincoln Mainstay, Toronto Community Benefits Network, Parkdale People's Economy, South Etobicoke Legal Services, CIRA, MFTA, Albion Neighborhood Services, Daily Bread Food Bank, and many more. Thank you.
So thank you, Daniel and Linda for getting us started here. So we want to use this opportunity to have a larger discussion with all of you on this call about what are the main housing issues that you've been seeing in South Etobicoke, whether that be personally with yourself or friends and family, professionally on an organizational level. Yeah, we're just interested to hear from all of you, and if you either want to raise your hand or in the chat box, that's fine too. We just want to use this as a platform to have a conversation just broadly about the housing issues. Yes, Katra, go ahead.
For me, I would say the main issue that I'm facing with as someone who lives in South Etobicoke area is the fact that landlords refuse to do maintenance, and when they agree to come in and do repairs in the apartment, they usually do a very poor job, that to the point where it makes me like, okay, I regret calling you. You just came into my house and you didn't do the job that you said you were going to do. So I'm better off doing repairs on my own. And that's literally what I started doing. As a busy person, with 2 kids, I had to buy paint. I had to buy the tools, and I painted the apartment myself. But I'm thinking like, why isn't my, why my superintendent or the building owner, why aren't they investing in their units, right? Because if we don't take care of it, then the place will be run down. I mean, I lived there for like 6 years and they haven't done repair once. Actually, sorry, they did one repair, the kitchen floor, and that was after sending multiple emails, calling the office multiple times, and telling them that the floors need to get replaced. They weren't replaced from the previous tenant who lived there for like 20 years. Heavy smoker, because they told us when we were moving in there and we came to look at the apartment, it was a person who smoked heavily. So the walls were stained, the floors were stained. I mean, they painted the walls at that time, but they haven't changed the tiles in the kitchen floor. So after about 7 years, they're wearing down and they need to get replaced. So it took multiple emails and phone calls to get those floors replaced. And now I have other issues, but they always give me excuses like, oh, this is your tenant's responsibility. If the bathtub is not damaged, if it's still functioning, we're not gonna replace it. Mind you, the paint is peeling off. So now I have to go and spend money out of my pocket and replace the bathtub. And that's a lot of money, right? I'm renting to save money. If I had more money, I would buy my own. But it's just they make it so uncomfortable to live there that it's like, okay, I might as well work harder and buy my own house, because it's almost degrading, it's very upsetting. And it just makes you feel like, you're not welcome there and they want you to be out of that place. Sorry, I kind of ranted on, but it's an issue I've been dealing with for a few years now. Thank you.
No, yeah, absolutely. And that's such a, housing is such an intimate space. And then when that's sort of not being repaired or there's no maintenance, that really impacts your well-being and your enjoyment of your space. So it's totally understandable. And we could definitely chat after if you want to talk more about that one-on-one as well. Kagan?
Yeah, it's kind of what I wanted to mention was kind of what Amber mentioned in the chat there. There seems to be lots of construction, but what's really frustrating, particularly with with South Etobicoke, is there are a lot of different city initiatives that are happening across the entire city, but it seems like South Etobicoke is a bit of a blind spot. So you see like the Rapid Housing Initiative projects, these modular housing initiative projects, Housing Now projects. All of these are promising to bring a lot of, like, thousands of new affordable housing to the city of Toronto, but we're not really seeing any movement on any projects in the actual neighborhood of South Etobicoke. And I think there is a lot of land and there is a lot of area where it can be used. There just hasn't been that push from the city to make that happen, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree with that. I feel like that's why we really do need to advocate in this community to see some of that projects and those developments come to South Etobicoke. Carol?
I'll just continue where Katra left off, the idea of that it's degrading, and it's also very stressful when a landlord, not only landlord, but the superintendent just pushes things away and gives excuses and eventually just doesn't show up when they say they're going to show up. So I had enough, and so did another tenant. And I called the city. It's the City of Toronto Property Standards Department. I had some excellent feedback. We even had an inspector last September come through, a bylaw officer, and myself and the other tenant not only took them around the entire property. This is a low-rise building in Long Branch. So there's only 28 units. And it was built in 1960. And you can imagine there's a lot of old plumbing, old electrical. I can't tell you the number of times that the water was shut off because there's been plumbing issues. So as a result, I said, to heck with this. We also had the bylaw officer come into our respective apartments. There were issues of ants, the insidious feral ants. They're not like other ones that will come and go. And, to the point where we were expected, oh, well, just do this, just do that. Well, I had enough of that excuse. So as a result, the Toronto Property Standards issued orders to the landlord. And otherwise they were going to face some pretty heavy fines. You got to hit back. And I have no compunction whatsoever about hitting back in the wallet with these people. Anyway, that Property Standards Department is really the place to go. You can only bat your head against the wall with stupid landlords and stupid superintendents and get action. I've had a number of things done. I'm feeling lighter, better. There's more to be done. But what happened as a result, the property standards people didn't want to deal with the landlord anymore. This landlord, unfortunately, is an older, much older person and may have dementia issues. So as a result, a property manager was brought on board. And I can't tell you that the things that have just changed for the better. It's a long road, because we've had issues for a long time, but now we're not dealing with the supers. And I'm hoping that one way or another that they will be gotten rid of. So anyway, just to give you my experience there.
No, yeah, thank you so much, Carol. And I really like how it connects to Katra's point as well about, there are needed repairs and maintenance that need to be happening, and we should have a certain standard of living. So these are all really important points. So thank you for raising them. Talia?
Yeah, You know, what are the most salient issues that I'm noticing and experiencing is one, anytime there's shared accommodations with roommates or possibly family members, it is precarious housing, full stop, because it doesn't take much for the situation to go sour, or if sharing with an elderly parent, what happens when that parent dies, who's on the lease, who's on the rental agreement, these all come into play. At the same time, I think that it's important, yes, we have to look locally, and at the same time examining what are the more systemic issues. How did Grimes vote on rental policies for Toronto? How did our MPP vote in Conservative caucus around these issues? You know, from where my perspective, we don't have the support of our local politicians on these issues because they keep voting against the things that would actually help. So there is a political element to this that we have to recognize and name names, or change cannot happen. You know, this idea, and this is one of my pet peeves around politics, is this idea that we have to be the respectable activists when that tends not to get things done. That's been the experience in queer communities. That's what we're experiencing in autistic communities. It's what we experienced in trans community. And the housing issue, especially for disabled people, ODSP was frozen again this year. We had zero increase. You know, for those who aren't aware, the maximum amount on ODSP for rent is about $500. Where can you find a place to live for $500 in South Etobicoke, in Ontario even? So, you know, was mentioned earlier, we have elections coming up. These have to be election issues. And yeah, it's just frustrating because these issues have been going on for almost 30 years or more. Mm-hmm. And they got worse 30 years ago with the freezes to Ontario Works, well, the change to Ontario Works and ODSP at that time when they were frozen and the losses were never made up.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. No, I definitely agree. I think discrimination in housing is really prevalent, and it just, all the unaffordable housing issues are just compounding for people with disabilities, for gender expansive people. And, you know, it is really important that we understand the lens of human rights as well within housing. And then, of course, holding our politicians accountable and understanding how they are voting in certain bills and motions. It's important for us to understand where their intentions lie and really hold them accountable for what the community needs to see. So thank you for that. Sandra?
I just wanted to say I really agree with Talia that these are problems that marginalized groups are really facing. And I do hope that at the conclusion of this meeting that there are groups in South Etobicoke who are willing to join with Eculinks in our proposed all candidates meeting that we are trying to organize for early May, because it will be most important to take the time right now to bring pressure on both our provincial and city representatives to make them understand that these are issues that we truly expect activity on if they wish to be elected.
Absolutely. Yeah, and if you don't mind sharing maybe a link to how to register or an email perhaps in the chat so people could
certainly
get more information, that would be great. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Bruce, I saw you had your hand up. Did you want to say something?
A lot of our clients, we we do home care, and we do home care using PSWs and nurses with Toronto housing buildings, but also residential little houses that we see sprinkled all around our community. And a lot of our clientele, you know, when their husbands were alive and they bought their little houses for $25,000, they were able to manage and take care of themselves within those homes. And I imagine most of you can see the lack of ability for these individuals living in these little houses to maintain them and actually pay the heat and the taxes and everything else. So whenever I think of apartment dwellers, I also think of our clienteles that live in these little houses that haven't been upgraded, and it costing a great deal of money to maintain those. So I want to recognize that our whole community is affected by costs. The cost of living, a living wage is not there. For myself that works in nonprofit, my wages is quite a bit less than what I would get in the private sector. And because of that, I have to choose to live with somebody else in a condo because there aren't apartments available. So there are a number of people that I consider myself to be the working poor as well. So I think we have to look at a broader brush, that we don't necessarily all look at just apartments and the rundownness of those, but the fact that most of us are finding food, transportation, and just regular living is more difficult and is not going to be changing unless somehow the pensioners and that type of thing becomes grander. So I think that's important to bring to this table as well, to not just look at apartment dwellers and Toronto housing people of struggling within that. I know there's a lot of people that have families and limited incomes, and they're not making it. And that's why the food banks are having more and more people show up at those locations. So I just wanted to bring that forward and add that to the conversation as well. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. That was that's a really good point. I think we're talking about affordable housing issues, but really we're having an affordability crisis in general in the city, in the province, in the country. So how are people supposed to afford their rent, their food, you know, the medical expenses they may have? So it is all compounding and making it impossible for anybody to survive right now. So thank you. Alan, did you want to say something?
Yeah, in addition to what Bruce was saying, I'm looking at the local grocery stores, for example. They only have part-time employees, 20 hours a week at minimum wage. So how can anybody afford an apartment or to live on 20 hours a week at $300 a week? I think we all should have to look at raising the minimum wage better than Doug Ford has done right now and recently. I think that the wage and the number of hours per week have to be addressed. As Bruce was saying, parents or people who bought their homes 50 years ago paid $10,000, $20,000, and one person was working 40 hours a week and supporting a family, and everything was done on that one salary. So perhaps we can look at something similar for today's age.
Absolutely, yeah. Raising wages is really important in helping to solve affordability crisis. Definitely. Thank you. Daniel, did you want to say something?
Thank you. Speaking of wages and that type of issue, you know, there's a great deal of turmoil even among people who are, you know, looking for a house or looking to rent and want to start a family, and people who are, I guess, you know, making quite a bit of money to begin with. Even I'm not saying that, you know, they're the ones who are suffering the most. It's certainly not the case, but there has been a bit of a brain drain. There have been a lot of people who are, you know, around my age group, like around kind of early 30s, who are leaving the city. You know, a friend of mine, you know, engineer, married to someone who is in the advertising agency sector, and they couldn't afford to play. So I'm thinking to myself, if that's kind of a barometer of like, who can afford to live in the city, that's not really saying sending a good message if people are sort of leaving, moving several cities over. I've been trying to move it for a long time. I looked at Windsor. Windsor's rent for one bedroom is like, just under 2,000. So it's spreading out from Toronto all over Ontario. And I think, again, in comparison, these aren't as large issues, but that's just on the topic of wages. Wanted to bring that up. Thank you.
No, that's a really important conversation to be having as well. It's like, who are cities built for, and who is Toronto and Etobicoke built for? And when we really ask these questions, sometimes we don't always want to hear the answer. So thank you for that. Kelsey, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to highlight, sorry if someone mentioned this and I missed it. I was just going to highlight that, the amount of power that the landlord and tenant board has as well. I wasn't super involved in South Etobicoke through the beginning of the pandemic, as I was only, working there recently, but I know in other areas it has been a major issue where the landlord tenant board has all the power, and because there was such a backlog, there was like what many called an eviction blitz, where they were just kicking out, people, one by one, 5 minutes after the other. And thankfully there was a lot of great advocacy groups who tried, really hard to advocate against this. But the fact is, these larger systems have way too much power, and that includes the landlord tenant board, which I'm pretty sure Doug Ford is a fan of, and I don't think John Tory is opposed to it either. So I think it's important to understand like how our leaders also think about these oppressive systems, because in that case, the landlord tenant board really oppressed a lot of newcomers, a lot of people that couldn't speak English super well because they just moved to Canada, and other things like that. So there's a lot of layers to this issue. And I think looking at the macro level as well is very important, because in this case, the landlord tenant board was actively, kicking people out, making people homeless in this period where we were in a global pandemic, which is a huge problem.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. Thank you for bringing that perspective. I think eviction prevention has to be a major strategy in within affordable housing, because the only way to have affordable housing right now is to maintain the housing that you currently have. So I think, eviction prevention and understanding the role of the landlord and tenant board is really important strategy in this larger conversation of affordable housing. So thank you. I'll go to Amy first before Carol and Alan, just to give people a chance to speak. Amy, did you want to say something?
I just wanted to mention it to one of the Kelsey point that, especially for the newcomers, when they came, the landlord demand for their credit check. And it was impossible for the newcomers to get a rent. Even if they get a rent, that would be like kind of landlord dominant. The conditions are extremely poor. And plus is for the newcomers, the support that they get it from a government, and then also federal government, if you are sponsored from a federal government, is $800 a month that you get. Is where can you even get a rent? $800, what are you gonna to eat? It's impossible for the newcomers to get decent housing. That I just want to flag it on that.
Mm-hmm. No, thank you for that perspective. Definitely like a housing allowance policy or funding needs to increase, because $800 is, you can't find anything for that right now. Especially, even in the South Etobicoke context, it is very expensive. So thank you. Maybe we'll do two more, Carol and Alan, and then we'll just we'll continue on with the presentation just in the interest of time. Carol, did you want to say something?
Oh, very quickly. I've noticed that in my neighborhood, where a large corporation had bought up a number of the low-rise apartment buildings, I'm seeing where they still have advertising out there for apartments for rent. And it's been out there and been out there. So that tells me they've got empty units and they can't rent them because of the price. So FYI.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Thank you. Alan?
I believe it was Kelsey who was talking about the landlord-tenant board. Tenants who are getting evicted for whatever reason. It could be finances, not paying their rent. And for those that are not paying the rent, somebody has to stand up for these people, get them assessed through the Attorney General's Department and have a psychologist check them out. And then it goes before the public guardian and trustee who take over the bank account of that particular tenant. And the tenancy is saved because there was an agreement for that tenant to repay the rent or pay the rent that's necessary. So that's one little aspect of the landlord-tenant board. Somebody has to stand up for these particular tenants who are running into problems.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Alan. And I did see some great things in the chat, which we can respond to as well. But just, thank you everybody for engaging in this conversation. I think it's so important to hear everybody's perspectives, and everyone brings a different lens. So I think that's really important for all of us to hear. So thank you all for engaging in this conversation today. I'm going to turn it over to Jasmine to introduce Salome, and then we'll get an update on a research project.
Yes, LAMP is involved with a very interesting research study on affordable housing. So we are very fortunate to have Salome here today. So I'm just going to do a little introduction. Salome Amadi has many degrees, including an MBA, and she's a professor at Humber and Sheridan. She's also a consultant, a researcher, an activist. She's interested in issues related to equity-seeking groups and the interrelations across health, community, justice, and social economics. Currently, she's leading a 3-year federally funded study on housing affordability in South Etobicoke, and it's also involving community-based participatory research. She is passionate about youth work, social justice, and community building from a trauma-informed, anti-oppressive lens. Welcome, Salome.
Thank you so much, Jazz. Bios are always a little embarrassing on the spotlight, but thanks so much for being here, everybody. Really excited. One thing I will share as I share my screen, I will be flying through a little bit in this presentation. So if you do have questions, I ask that you please definitely drop them in the chat box and I'll save them, because I will be going through a more thorough presentation of all the data collection and the project. Probably end of May. We still have a lot of transcribing to do, but I will be sharing the survey specifically. So as I mentioned, I was raised in Mimico, know the community very well, know housing has been a growing issue for all the reasons everybody mentioned. And so I will chat briefly about the project. We're in year 2, moving into year 3. We are working from a community-based participatory approach, so with and for and by the community. Some of our advisory members are here. Thank you so much for helping us create the survey questions and building that community of practice. So this partnership is through Humber with LAMP Community Health Center. Naturally, when the grant popped up, I was part of La Hague way back. It only made sense to partner up to be able to focus on this pressing issue for all the reasons everyone mentioned. So Kumsa from TCBN, Vanessa and Sarah, who are leading the South Etobicoke Community Benefit Agreements, is one of the ways we've catalyzed that really great partnership, along with La Hague and LAMP and some other great groups. So today I'm just going to go over the survey results, and I'll just very briefly mention the other pieces as we move into year 3. And if you have specific data questions, I won't be able to dive too much into it, I think, with the time constraints, but definitely, again, park your questions so that I can definitely get back to them. I also am not going to be going at length about all of the data collection, some of the pieces around that today, but I'll definitely be highlighting some things that pretty much emphasize what everyone has shared and known. So survey gathered 244. You can see kind of the pin drops across our community, pretty scattered and evenly across all of the different neighborhoods, as we can see. And some of them have, you know, numbers with specific multiples at specific postal codes. So the majority are private, the landlord type, and then we had some co-op. We also did a co-op focus group. We won't be chatting about that, but social housing, supportive, not sure other, you know, staying with relatives as well. So just the income range to give us situate us. So we have, we start at the bottom with the lower income, less than 10,000, moving our way up. So predominantly really higher risk folks who we, as we mentioned, are going to have the greatest challenge with the rent increase, and we'll share some of those reasons. Our ages are pretty relatively evenly spaced, but a good breadth of age ranges. So a lot of different concerns, right, across the board, from families to seniors to those who are evicted to those on ODSP, OW, students. So lots there. So another quick snapshot. So the total household debt dependence, the majority, we had one, so an individual, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The percentages are there. The majority are renting, housed and not paying rent, either, you know, with a relative or that kind of thing, couch surfing. And we also had some folks who are staying at shelters share. And then wage type, we did have a majority. So the majority not working either on ODSP or OW. Then we have those making 14 to 22. I think 22 right now, the number might have increased again. I think the quarterly, I think that livable wage in Toronto last that we researched was $22 an hour. So we have those who are making 14 to 22, and then minimum wage 6%. Then those making more than $22 an hour at 13%. So when did you move into your dwelling? So interesting enough, we have the majority, you know, who've been in this community for over 5 to 10 years, right? So, you know, the social networks, the family, the social services, staying in the community is such a huge, important piece, and for well-being, for many reasons. And we know that that's going to be a completely different social policy issue as well, that our representatives, our political representatives, are not necessarily addressing, right? It's all about supply and demand and the corporatization of housing. We won't get too into some of those, but another interesting thing that I cross-aggregated was that looking at the years in dwelling and whether they had issues or not. So in the yellow is yes. So on the left-hand bar graph, so you can see that those who have issues are those who've been in the community for over 5 years, over 5 to 10 years on the far right. So, I mean, naturally, I think because they've been here, they've seen those changes and they've been so drastic. I mean, I also grew up in Mimico when there were motels along the waterfront. So those changes have been drastic, and a lot of them have voiced a variety of challenges and issues, as well as, you know, you have a kind of a higher number for those as well who've lived here less than a year. So that's years in dwelling. So how satisfied, we asked, are you with the affordability? Interesting. We have very satisfied. Satisfied is kind of high. And then the dissatisfied, very dissatisfied. However, this question is always a little misleading because we like to ask follow-up questions, right? You never just ask one question about the issues. So we asked any issues with your current dwelling. So on the left, they said yes. The percentage, and then we asked a follow-up question, and even though if you look on the right, those who said no issues with their current dwelling, the follow-up questions even more so said yes, there were issues about unaffordability. So we had kind of those 3 questions sprinkled, and it really highlights that issues across income levels are related to affordability. Well-being and housing specifically was a question we asked. So I guess not surprisingly, you know, 100% are not saying excellent for obvious reasons, right? So we know there's a lot of research. So when we do a full report, you know, those fancy reports that we write to our stakeholders, all of the well-being for diverse populations and how that impacts their health and well-being. There's lots of research out there, right? Stable housing leads to stable families and healthier, you know, employment and all those other social determinants of health. I think it was Katra, I think you mentioned, you have repairs needed, the number one issue. Rent prices high, number two, but again, we had 3-4 questions around affordability and rent. And then we had security, safety. So some of the qualitative stuff I won't touch on here today, but when we do our full report back, we can definitely dive into some of the unique stories as well. Being rehoused in South Etobicoke was a concern. Neighbors being underhoused, crowded, right, is an issue too. A lot of people share that the houses are smaller or they're multi-tenant homes, that sort of thing. Just a quick snapshot. I'm not going to talk about our demographics, but a good variety of folks in our community, diverse folks. So representative, gender, we did have mostly women, men, gender fluid, non-binary, two-spirit, and prefer not to share. School, the majority no. Yes, some part-time, and then we had high school. But of course, the cutoff age was 16 for being able to afford rent. So please let me know if I'm running out of time. I think I have a couple more slides. So I just thought I would cross-aggregate this just for us to see some of the more nuances of the data. So forgive me, I'm not a graphic designer, so I know this might not be the easiest to follow. I don't know if I have a pointer mouse. I don't know if you can see where I'm pointing to. Okay, I'll have to figure that out later. But so on the left hand, you know, the type of employment or type of income rather, full-time, part-time, and there was some overlap as well. ODSP, OW, OSAP. So you can see, I like to report both average and median. In the next slide, you'll see why, but here in our data specific to South Etobicoke, you can see that the average and median is not too different. It is in a wide range. However, the max and min of reported rent is quite different, right? So those who are working full-time, you know, you had a couple of people or 1 or 2 people paying $3,000 and the lowest paying $587. But that lower number, of course, overlaps with whether or not they are subsidized, RGI, that sort of thing. So these numbers obviously vary. This number, you know, might be higher if we didn't have RGI or ODSP or OW. Alternatively, those who are only on ODSP, the average, the median, again, some of them, this was, you know, our survey couldn't be so long, but they had reported to us, some people reported, you know, their rent after the subsidy, right? So what they were paying or covering after that ODSP support. Alternatively, others were reporting their full rent. So we don't have an accurate max and min. So that's why we don't have that. But just to see just a little snapshot of what's happening in South Etobicoke. Pension, those who are on pension, the average and the median and the max and min, we had one person paying $5,000. So that was interesting. And we're going to pull out some more data across the data points that we got. And this next one, I know it's a lot. So this one's for Toronto. And what's interesting here is that we'll start at the top left column, household income. So we have those ranges. Then we have monthly affordability. Spending less than 30% of your income would mean that you're spending about, you know, that much on rent. So if your income is under 10,000, you should be spending around 250 on rent, right? Less than 30%. And that 30% is specifically the definition of affordable housing, quotes, provincially and federally, right? And then what you can see here in stark contrast is capturing both average and median rent costs in Toronto. So if you look across in the black row, the average market rate from CMHC on the City of Toronto website for bachelor, for 1 bedroom, for 2 bedroom, for 3 bedroom. But if you compare it to the median that's actually advertised, you can see that the number is higher. right? So in the orange, so you have for a bachelor, 1,200 for the average, but it's 1,500 for the median. And then obviously we have maxes and minimums, and it goes up for the median. It's quite, right? If you have the CMHC, the average rent is just under 2,000, but in reality, the median is 3,150, right? So what I've highlighted here is in the red, what's not affordable for the average market rent. In the orange, what's not affordable. So you can see that the unaffordability actually increases to income all the way down to 60,000 being unaffordable for the median. And then you can see you have to be making either yourself or a partner 70,000 plus, right, for the affordability of the current median prices or average price as well. Okay, so I mean, we know all this and just thought to highlight that. I won't be talking at length about some of the qualitative responses, but we also had a question about what are your solutions, similar to what everyone shared here around, rent evictions and AGIs and all of that. So we'll share that in our future meeting, just specific to the research. So please do join that. But, rent control, rent cap was a huge one. More affordable housing, some folks recognized that housing is a very huge issue. I'm in a good place, but I know people who are in a horrible place, right? Just being able to afford proper, safe housing, rent needs to be lowered, right? And a variety of other issues, right? Covering other costs were concerns. So further, we will be sharing some more of our data once we transcribe. So I am a one-person team right now. We haven't had any student research assistants just as yet, just some challenges with onboarding. So transcribing and all of that good stuff. So we do have focus groups. So thank you to all the agency workers who attended. We also had a co-op focus group interviews as well, 10 and 10. So that's yet to come. And just to highlight year 3, we're going to host a housing conference in South Etobicoke. Across the board, we've been, attending some of the different community groups and just knowing and underscoring that we want to, host capacity building and knowledge sharing and align our different associations and groups around where we envision South Etobicoke being, because this is it's definitely a marathon, right? I think we have to be fighting for our human rights, unfortunately. As we know, the city is not necessarily looking at it from a human rights perspective, right? Housing is not viewed as a human right as of yet, although we do have some councillors who do voice that, far and few, but speakers as well, and capacity building that LAMP and LAHAG have been doing, and we can hopefully continue to build that vision. And just to underscore, what can you do? Where can we work? There's so many great spaces such as this. So thank you all for coming and attending, right? Power in numbers. We all need to bring, 5 of our friends and 5 of our neighbors and do different, a variety of means of educating or advocacy, right? So research is one snapshot of that. And just thank you to the team. Jasmine, Natalie will be starting, Vanessa's here, and our past outreach workers. Shout out to all of you and our amazing advisory committee and the community itself. And I think that's it. So hopefully I didn't go too far over time. So I just wanted to defer to you, Carly, so that I don't, if I have time to answer questions, or alternatively, we can print off the questions and I can save them for another time.
Yeah, I think, what do you think, Kate? I think we're kind of at the end at 2:30.
Well, we actually have a few other pieces that we really want to get to. So yes, print off the questions and come back to us, because time is tight. And I'm hoping that some of you can stay a little longer. We did do a huge presentation, and I just want to, because I know people will want to leave soon, I want to move forward through the slides, because it talks about all the hard work we've done. But the important part of what I think everybody here wants to find out about, we got a grant, which is fabulous. So we can have a project manager and 2 community animators to lead the initiative, and they are to direct outreach to the at-risk communities, build out leadership capacity and diversity within LAHAG, and reduce barriers for participation.
and conduct research on potential sites for affordable housing in South Etobicoke and advocate for inclusion of deeply affordable housing in private developments. This is very exciting. But from that, we're going to move on again. I'm sorry, I'm taking over everybody's time because we are running out of time. And I want to go to the key housing messages. And I'm going to talk more about portable housing, but this is the one. We want more investment from the provincial government into into portable housing subsidies where all Ontarians can access affordable housing in private developments. I'm going to come back to that point. There are about 32,000 units coming to Etobicoke, specifically South Etobicoke, and we are requesting that 15% of every new development have a deeply affordable component to it. So it would be rent geared to income or supervisory housing. But it's really important that we make sure that out of all those new units that we get in some manner or another, 15% of them to be designated rent geared to income. That might include co-ops purchasing condos within units at an affordable rate. The third thing we want to talk about is we want rent controls to be put in place forever. And we want rent controls in all the buildings. So not just the buildings built up to 2019 or 2018. We need to actually put rent controls in. And so these are the three things we want to ask our the candidates for the provincial and city elections. But I want to come right back to the portable housing. And I don't know if a lot of you know about this. People from The Hague and all over went to a very informative Zoom meeting with two people from Manitoba. Manitoba, you say? Well, we are in Ontario. What can Manitoba do? Manitoba did something really brilliant, and this was actually supposedly, well, led by the NDP, but brought in by the Conservatives. In Manitoba, they offer a portable housing. Just lost it right out of my head. A portable housing geared to income benefit, and it is not tied to any provincial service. It is tied only to your income tax. So, and it's for anyone in the province of Manitoba. And what we want is to have the Canadian Ontario Housing Benefits. It's the new funding program that provides the portable housing benefits to assist with rental costs. We want that to be open to the general public, that you don't have to go and be online for be in a special group who are trying to get out of shelters or trying to get off the street or any of those sort of goods. And it's really important that we think about this because the way the people from Manitoba discussed it, nobody in government wanted to increase any of the OW or ODS, the equivalent of OW or ODSP monies. They didn't want to do it, that it was not going to be positive. But by doing funding, portable funding for everybody, it became more of a provincial action than looking at people with who make so little money. And I'm confusing you on this, but I think this is one of the biggest ways, if we can get this benefit for everybody in Ontario, it is one of the biggest and fastest and easiest ways to house people tomorrow. And so I want that to be part of the discussion that we have when we meet up with our candidates for the upcoming elections. We will still keep at La Hague fighting for affordable housing, for building affordable housing. But this is something that can help people now. It's basically that. And so I wonder if there are any questions about this whole idea or anything about it. Has anyone heard about it before? I mean, there are portable housing benefits here in town, but you have to be with an eligible priority group, which I discussed. Has anyone been able to even take advantage of portable housing benefits down here? No. No, this is it. It's something, me who've worked in housing for 20 years was not something that I even knew about. I mean, I did know on the edges, especially where there was no, through the city of Toronto in sort of harder to house areas. I think this is where we get to find a way to help our neighbors find affordable housing and be able to have an affordable life.
Kate, I have a couple clients that have that portable subsidy, but unfortunately, the situation they're in is they have a number of kids, like 4 and up, and they're stuck in 1-bedrooms. Right. And they're afraid to move because from what they understand, when they move, the subsidy will stay the same, but the rent can go higher.
Well, what happened in Manitoba, and that's I'm glad you brought this up, because what happened in Manitoba is the province decided that appropriate rents would be 80% of the average rent. And then from there, they said if you have X number of children or need the space, appropriate space, then the balance would change as you move until you find. So it's what you need. So they want to house people appropriately. So for children, you want to have at least a 3-bedroom apartment. And so the balance of what they would pay between what you make and what needs to be added would be the benefit.
Yeah, but that's not what's happening here.
No. And this is why we want to look at this. Yeah. This is our chance.
Yes, fingers crossed.
to really push, but so many people don't know about it. I just noticed on the chats that so many people didn't know about affordable housing, and that they didn't know what was going on in Manitoba. So it's all very, very interesting. I know we're running out of time, and I have a real push with it. But does anyone have any questions about what we've been up to at La Hague? And we can send the slides about the parts that we missed, because there's a lot that we have been doing. And actually, Jasmine, is there anything that you want to bring up just briefly about what we have been doing?
Oh boy. I think a lot of advocacy, I think that we mentioned before, but I'd like to see, I think some of the questions that have come up, I want to address first really quickly. First of all, we will share this with you, the presentations with you. Salome, is it all right if we share your presentation too, if you send it to us? That would be great. So we will let you see our presentation and have it. We also want to say that this portable housing subsidy that we're talking about drafted off the Rent Assist program in Manitoba. We do have backgrounders on it, and we did meet with Josh and Michael last week. So we're certainly happy to have more meetings. They're happy to meet with us and the community if the community is interested in it. I think what's really important is, as Kate mentioned, that this is one of our key messages. We have 3 key messages. I don't know if we can go back to those just really quickly. So our key messages are more investment into portable housing subsidies, where people living in Ontario can access affordable housing in private developments. So that's the message. So if you wanted to share that with politicians, and if you wanted to learn more, we're happy to speak with you about that. We're also the other key message to politicians and decision makers, influencers, I guess, we're trying to broaden our support as much as possible, is with 32,000 units coming to Etobicoke. We want a minimum of 15% to be designated rent geared to income. Now, that doesn't mean they have to be in the same building as long as they're in the same area, but this is just a minimal request that we are asking for, and that rent controls be put into all rents. So right now it's just up to a certain year. Carly, what's the year again? Is it 19?
November 2018.
Sorry.
November 2018.
Okay, so we would like it to go right across the board to all units, because of course the high condo market rents also influence. If you go look in Mimico, on the Mimico Strip on Lakeshore, you'll see that some of those smaller, older buildings, their rents have been jacked up because of the market rents that have been going up. So we want rent controls across the board. So those are 3 key messages, and we're happy to share those with you. And hopefully we will even do some more fine tuning closer to the elections. But we want these messages to go to all politicians, all decision makers, not just the Ontario government, like everyone. These ones certainly are very close to the legislation that's needed or the Ontario government's power. So that's why we kind of drafted those 3 messages. Can we just go to the wrap up and the other slides you had up for me? If you don't mind, Carly, that would be great. So I guess the important thing is, first of all, we just want to say thank you for staying with us so long. What we're going to be doing, how you can help, next steps. And I'm going to let, if you don't mind, I'm going to let Daniel, as soon as I'm finished this, say something about the leadership series, because it's very important. But really what we'd like you to do is go back to your organizations or ask your organizations if that you will join with us in a call to action for rent geared to income and supportive housing in South Etobicoke. Look at those key messages, see if you can use those key messages, or if you would like to come along with us. I also want to add that certainly EcuLinks, we're very interested in doing something together. So please count us in any work around affordable housing. I mean, really, we want a coalition. We want as many organizations and as many individuals and community leaders as possible to help with this serious housing crisis. It's in South Etobicoke. That's where our primary concern is, but of course it's across the city. So you can also help us in next steps to support our key messages to decision makers and politicians in the upcoming election platforms. You can help us to grow the affordable housing movement in South Etobicoke by attending meetings, workshops, and offer volunteer help and ideas. Really, we're very, very passionate, and we have been meeting with politicians, and we have a lot of campaigns. So we really do want you to help us to develop as well a leadership series, which a community leadership skill building series. I'm going to let Daniel talk to you about that, but these are some ways you can help us. So I hope you will join us. I hope you will share with us your information. I hope you will help us to expand this network. And it's not just our network, it's everyone's network. It's EcuLink's network. It's any group or organization or individual who wants to grow this movement. As we mentioned earlier in the presentation, actually, I think it was Kagan who mentioned it, that there has been so much government money and great housing projects and plans, but South Etobicoke has barely benefited from any of it. And we see all the people who've been displaced by the commodification of housing. We see all the people who are calling us every day, every week, how they've been in the apartment for 10, 15, 20 years, and now the rent evictions are happening. So many people have been displaced. As a matter of fact, CBC had an interview recently that quoted a professor, university professor, specialist on housing, 100,000 units of what's natural affordable housing, not subsidized or rent geared to income, but just because they're older buildings, 100,000 have been lost in Canada. I think it's a lot higher. We see 15th Street, we see 13th Street, we see sites in Mimico, all where we know the rent evictions have occurred. So we're hoping that you can join us. And because if we all work together, we can gain momentum and we can have much more influence and pressure to take some really positive steps. So I'm going to turn it over to Daniel, because we were also looking to other organizations and other groups to do this community leadership workshop series. So I'm going to turn it over to Daniel. So thank you.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Jasmine, for that introduction. I'm going to, get to the meat of it right now. We're looking to have these workshops to build sort of leadership skills within the members of our community to strengthen their, sort of ability to affect positive social change. It's all about building capacity. And, so we're looking to start planning and developing these workshop series, but we need your help, if you don't mind. If you or your organization are interested in facilitating a workshop or sharing ideas of how to help plan the series, we want to hear from you. Some examples of some things that are actually already in the works. So, we kind of have got the ball rolling on this are public speaking, leadership best practices, engaging community volunteers, advocacy, social media tech tips, conflict mediation, group tools, community organization. I've got a few going on. I know that NECPEN and Katie and Karen, other great members of the LAMP community, have things going on as well. I don't know if I think we're a little pressed on time. Probably won't get into the sort of nitty gritty of them, but essentially, again, the conclusion is we really want to strengthen the people within our community to help actually be able to have the skills to make some of these changes happen. If you think that you can help out, which you probably can, everybody has a lot of skills that they're not even aware of sometimes, then we want to hear from you, and that would be just great. So thank you so much, Jasmine, for that introduction. Thank you everyone for staying. And let's take care. All the best. Oh, there we go. Big old thank you. Thank you.
I'm going to add my thank you to Daniel's and to Jasmine's and to Carly's and to everyone else, Fome, who gave a great presentation. And think housing, talk to your neighbors about housing. Take our 3 points to talk about the 3 points to anyone you can, especially any of the candidates. And it was great to have you all here. If you have any questions, you can send them to Jasmine. And Jasmine's going to put her email address in the chat. And we at La Hague will keep moving. We're doing this meeting again tonight, if you want to hear some of it again. And thank you all so very much. Bye.
Yes, and we also have your emails, so we will definitely send you all some information. We're going to make this link. We're going to hopefully have this presentation online. We will send you our LAMP address. We will also send you the La Hague address. We will also send you the CIHA address. So, really it's a community group. And EcuLinks, please, hopefully, you can also email me, and we'd love to talk to you some more. And really, we hope that you'll all join the movement. And thank you so much for coming today. And thanks everyone. Thanks to the team. So well done, everybody. See you soon.
Thanks so
We'll
much,
be in
folks.
touch.